Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Harmony, watching the massive alien ships appear on his screens. 3 weeks ago, his exploration vessel had been mapping the outer moons of Jupiter when the impossible happened. Ships unlike anything humans had ever built came out of empty space, moving in perfect formation toward their position. The alien vessels were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. They looked like giant crystals floating through space, each one the size of a city block. Blue and green lights pulsed along their surfaces in patterns that seemed almost like breathing. Jake had been a captain for 15 years, but nothing in his training had prepared him for this moment. "Captain, they're sending another message," said Communications Officer Danny Martinez from his station. Danny was young, maybe 25, with nervous hands that kept moving over his controls. "Same as before, they want to talk." Jake nodded and looked around his bridge. His crew of 43 people were all staring at him, waiting for orders. These were good people, trained for deep space exploration, but none of them had ever expected to meet aliens. The ship had been built to study distant planets and map new star systems, not to handle first contact with another species. "Put the message through, Danny," Jake said, trying to keep his voice calm. He straightened his blue uniform and walked to the center of the bridge. The main screen flickered, and suddenly he was looking at something that made his heart race. The alien on the screen was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished silver. Its head was larger than a human's, and where eyes should be, there were two glowing blue orbs. When it spoke, its voice came through the ship's speakers with a strange musical quality, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "I am Ambassador Vex High of the Zephyrian Confederation," the alien said. Its mouth moved differently than a human's, but the translation system made the words clear. "We have been watching your species for many cycles of your sun. We come in peace to make contact." Jake stepped forward. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Space Command. We welcome you to our solar system." He paused, not sure what to say next. The first contact protocols he had memorized seemed useless now. "Captain Morrison," Vex High continued, "your species possesses something we have never encountered in our travels across the galaxy. We represent 12 different worlds and many different peoples. None of us have what you call music." The word hung in the air like a puzzle piece that didn't fit anywhere. Jake looked at his crew, seeing the same confusion on their faces. Music seemed like such a normal part of human life. Every human culture had songs, instruments, rhythms. Children learned to sing before they could walk properly. "We don't understand," Jake said carefully. "You've never heard music before? We have sounds for communication," Vex High explained. "We have patterns that please us. But what you call music, this thing that makes your emotions change and connect with others, this is unknown to us. We wish to learn." Commander Lisa Brooks stepped up beside Jake. She was the ship's cultural liaison, a smart woman in her 30s who spoke 6 human languages and knew more about Earth's cultures than anyone else on the ship. "What exactly are you asking us to do?" "We request a demonstration," Vex High said. "Show us this music. Help us understand what makes humans different from all other thinking beings we have met." Jake felt the weight of the moment settling on his shoulders. This wasn't just about his ship anymore. He was representing all of humanity to beings from 12 different worlds. Whatever happened next would be remembered forever. "How long do we have to prepare?" he asked. "We will wait," Vex High replied. "This is too important to rush. When you are ready, we will come aboard your vessel. 3 of our ships carry ambassadors from different worlds. They all wish to witness this demonstration." The screen went dark, leaving Jake and his crew in silence. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Danny let out a long breath and Chief Engineer Pete Collins whistled softly. "Well," Pete said, running a hand through his gray hair, "that's not something you hear every day." Lisa was already thinking ahead. "We need to put together a program that represents human music, different styles, different cultures. Classical, folk, modern, traditional songs from all the continents. The question is, Jake said, do we have anyone on board who can actually perform? This isn't a concert hall. We're an exploration ship. Danny raised his hand slightly. I play guitar, Captain. Not professionally, but I'm decent. I can sing a little, added Navigation Officer Mary Chen. My grandmother taught me some old Chinese songs. Pete nodded. My wife made me take piano lessons before I joined the space service. I remember some pieces. Jake smiled for the first time since the aliens had appeared. Looks like we're forming a band. Lisa, I want you to work with everyone to put together a program, something that shows the range of human music. We have maybe a day or two to practice. What about the children on board? Lisa asked. Katie Sullivan is only 3, but she loves to sing. Sometimes you can hear her humming in the corridors. The ship carried several families, as most long-term exploration missions did. Dr. Amy Sullivan, their xenobiologist, lived on board with her husband Rick and their daughter Katie. The little girl was known throughout the ship for her bright smile and endless curiosity about everything they encountered in space. Let's see what we can put together first, Jake decided. If we need more performers, we'll ask the families. As his crew began planning, Jake walked to the large window that looked out into space. The alien ships hung there like sleeping giants, waiting patiently for humanity to show them something they had never experienced before. He thought about all the music he had heard in his life, from his mother's lullabies to the complex symphonies played in Earth's great concert halls. How do you explain music to beings who have never felt its power? How do you demonstrate something that touches the soul to creatures who might not even have souls the way humans understood them? Jake didn't know the answers yet, but he knew this was the most important performance in human history. Everything that happened next would determine how 12 alien civilizations would view humanity for generations to come. Outside the window, the alien ships pulsed with their mysterious lights, and somewhere in the depths of space, the future was waiting to be written in song. 3-year-old Katie Sullivan wandered through the corridors of the USS Harmony with her favorite stuffed rabbit tucked under her arm. The ship had been her home for as long as she could remember, and she knew every hallway, every room, and every friendly face that lived there with her family. Katie's mother, Dr. Amy Sullivan, worked in the science labs studying plants and animals from different planets. Her father, Lieutenant Commander Rick Sullivan, helped the ship navigate through space. But Katie didn't understand all the grown-up work. She just knew that everyone on the ship was like family, and they all smiled when they saw her coming today. Felt different though. All the adults seemed worried about something. They kept whispering to each other and looking at the big screens that showed the space outside. Katie had seen the pretty crystal ships floating near them, and she thought they looked like the Christmas decorations her grandmother had shown her in pictures from Earth. She skipped down the main corridor, humming a song her grandmother had taught her during their video calls. It was called Moon River, and Grandma said it was very old and very special. Katie liked the way it made her feel when she sang it, like floating on a gentle wave. The grown-ups were having a meeting in the big conference room, and Katie could hear voices coming from inside. She pressed her ear to the door, the way she had seen people do in the movies her parents showed her. We need something that really shows what human music is about, she heard Captain Morrison saying. Something that comes from the heart. Danny's guitar playing is good, said Lisa's voice, but we need more variety. Maybe we should ask the families with children to help. Katie pushed the door open, just a crack, and peeked inside. She saw all her favorite grown-ups standing around a big table covered with papers and small computers. Captain Morrison looked tired, and Lisa was tapping a pen against her chin the way she did when she was thinking hard. The problem is, Pete was saying, most of us aren't really musicians. We're space explorers who happen to know a few songs. Katie pushed the door open wider and stepped into the room. All the adults turned to look at her, and she gave them her biggest smile. Hi everyone, she said, waving her free hand while clutching her rabbit with the other. What are you doing, Katie? Sweetheart, Lisa said, kneeling down to the little Girls level, we're trying to figure out how to make music for some new friends we met. I know music, Katie announced proudly. Grandma taught me lots of songs. Want to hear one? Before anyone could answer, Katie began to sing. Her small, clear voice filled the conference room with the gentle melody of Moon River. She didn't know all the words perfectly, sometimes making up sounds that felt right, but the tune was pure and sweet. Moon River, wider than a mile. I'm crossing you in style someday. Double quotes, she sang, swaying slightly as the music flowed through her. Her eyes were closed, and she had the peaceful expression she always got when singing. The room fell completely silent. Danny's mouth was open in surprise. Pete had stopped moving entirely, his hand frozen halfway to his coffee cup. Captain Morrison felt something tighten in his chest as he listened to the innocent voice carrying the ancient melody. Lisa wiped at her eyes, not realizing she had started crying. There was something about hearing a 3-year-old sing that old, beautiful song in the middle of a starship that made everything else seem less important. When Katie finished, she opened her eyes and looked around at all the adults staring at her. Did you like it? She asked, suddenly feeling shy. Katie, Captain Morrison said, his voice softer than usual. That was beautiful. Where did you learn that song? Grandma Rose taught me, Katie said, hugging her rabbit tighter. She said it's about dreaming and hoping for good things. She said when people feel sad, this song makes them feel better. Danny was recording everything on his small device. He played back Katie's performance, and once again the room filled with her sweet voice. This time, everyone could hear what they had felt, but couldn't name before. There was something pure about the way Katie sang, something that came from a place deeper than technique or training. That's it, Lisa whispered. That's what we need to show them. She's just a baby, Pete said gently. We can't put that kind of pressure on a 3-year-old. Captain Morrison knelt down next to Katie. Katie, how would you feel about singing for some new friends? They've never heard music before, and we want to show them how special it is. Katie's face lit up. New friends, are they nice? We think so, Captain Morrison said. They look different from us, but they seem very kind. They want to learn about the songs we sing. I can teach them. Katie said excitedly, I know lots of songs. Grandma taught me lullabies and happy songs, and even some songs in other languages. Lisa looked at the other adults. We should ask her parents first. Ask my mama and papa what? Katie wanted to know. Just then, Dr. Amy Sullivan appeared in the doorway. She had been looking for her daughter and heard the voices from the conference room. Katie, there you are. I hope she's not bothering anyone. Not at all. Captain Morrison saw it, standing up. Amy, we need to talk to you and Rick about something important. Within an hour, Katie's parents had joined the meeting. When they heard the recording of their daughter singing, Amy pressed her hand to her mouth in amazement. She's been singing that song for months, Amy said. It's her favorite. She sings it when she's happy, when she's sad, when she's playing with her toys. Rick looked worried. You want her to perform for aliens. She's just 3 years old. We're not asking her to carry the weight of humanity on her shoulders, Lisa explained. But there's something about the way she sings that captures exactly what music means to us. It's innocent, it's emotional, it's human. Katie had wandered over to the big window that looked out at space. She could see the crystal ships floating. They're like beautiful toys. Mama, are those the new friends? Amy joined her daughter at the window. Yes, sweetheart. They want to learn about our music. Can I sing Moon River for them? Katie asked. Maybe they'll like it too. Amy looked at her husband, then at Captain Morrison. The decision they made in the next few minutes would change everything, not just for their daughter, but for the entire human race. Outside the window, the alien ships waited patiently in the darkness of space, still unaware that their introduction to human music would come from the smallest person aboard the USS Harmony. 2 days later, the main auditorium of the USS Harmony had been transformed into something special. The crew had moved chairs and tables to create a large open space with a small stage at one end. Soft lights hung from the ceiling, making everything glow warmly. It looked more like a cozy theater than part of a starship. Katie Sullivan sat on a chair that was too big for her, swinging her legs back and forth. She wore her favorite blue dress with tiny stars on it, the one her grandmother had sent from Earth. Her stuffed rabbit sat in her lap, and she was humming quietly to herself, not nervous at all about what was going to happen. Captain Morrison stood near the entrance, checking his watch for the 10th time in 5 minutes. His hands were sweating, and he kept adjusting his uniform. In all his years as captain, he had never felt pressure like this. Today wasn't just about his ship or his crew. Today, humanity would show 12 alien civilizations something they had never experienced before. The docking bay reports they're coming aboard now, Danny said through his communication device. 3 shuttles, just like Ambassador Vexhai promised. Lisa stood near Katie, ready to help if the little girl got scared. But Katie didn't look scared at all. She was looking around the room with bright, curious eyes, excited to meet the new friends everyone had told her about. Dr. Amy Sullivan sat in the front row with her husband Rick. Amy's hands were folded tightly in her lap, and she couldn't stop watching her daughter. Part of her wanted to run up to the stage and take Katie away from all this responsibility. But another part of her was proud that her little girl could do something so important for everyone. The doors to the auditorium opened, and Ambassador Vexhai entered first. The tall, silver-skinned alien moved gracefully, its glowing blue eyes taking in every detail of the room. Behind Vexhai came other beings that made the humans gasp in wonder. There was a creature that looked like it was made of living crystal, its body reflecting the room's lights in rainbow patterns. Another alien was covered in what looked like golden fur, with 6 arms and kind, dark eyes. A third being seemed to be made of flowing water held together by some invisible force, constantly shifting and moving. Katie's eyes went wide with delight. "Oh, they're so pretty," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Some of the crew members tried not to smile, but they couldn't help it. More aliens filed into the room. There was one that looked like a walking tree with silver leaves, another that seemed to be made of pure light, and several others that were so different from anything human that it was hard to describe them. But they all moved carefully and quietly, showing respect for the moment. Ambassador Vexhai approached the stage area. "Captain Morrison, we are honored to be here. These are representatives from the 12 worlds of our confederation. We have all traveled far to witness this demonstration of human music." Captain Morrison stepped forward. "Welcome aboard the USS Harmony. We're honored to share our culture with you." He gestured toward Katie, who was watching everything with fascination. "This is Katie Sullivan. She's going to show you what music means to humans." The crystal being spoke with a voice like wind chimes. "She is very small. Are human young typically your cultural ambassadors?" Lisa answered carefully, "Not usually. But Katie represents something pure about human music. She sings because it makes her happy, not because she has to." Katie stood up on her chair and waved at all the aliens. "Hi, new friends. I'm Katie, and I'm 3 years old. I like to sing, and I hope you like it too." The golden-furred alien with 6 arms made a sound that might have been laughter. "She is not afraid of us. Should I be afraid?" Katie asked, tilting her head to one side. "You seem very nice." The water creature rippled in what looked like pleasure. "We mean no harm, small one. We are curious about your gift." Katie looked confused. "What gift?" "Your music," Vexhai explained. "The sounds you make that create feelings in others." "Oh," Katie said, understanding now. "You mean singing? Everyone can sing. Watch." Without any introduction or preparation, Katie began to sing Moon River. Her small, clear voice filled the auditorium, carrying the gentle melody to every corner of the room. She sang with her eyes closed, the way she always did, lost in the feeling of the music. The effect on the aliens was immediate and startling. The crystal being's body began to pulse with colors that matched the rhythm of Katie's song. The golden-furred creature's 6 arms moved slowly through the air as if it was trying to catch the music. The water alien's form shifted and flowed in patterns that looked like dancing, but it was the tree-like being that showed the most dramatic change. Its silver leaves began to glow, and what sounded like soft crying came from somewhere within. Its wooden body, when Katie sang the line about Dream Maker and Heartbreaker, the tree alien made a sound that was unmistakably a sob. The other humans in the room were amazed. They had expected the aliens to be interested in the music, but this was something far beyond interest. The aliens were experiencing emotions they had never felt before. When Katie finished her song, she opened her eyes and looked around at all. The aliens, many of them, were making sounds or moving in ways that seemed to show they were upset or moved by what they had heard. "Did I do something wrong?" Katie asked, suddenly worried. The crystal being spoke first, its voice now carrying something that sounded like wonder. "Wrong? No, small human. You have done something that we did not know was possible." Vexhai stepped closer to the stage. "In all our travels across the galaxy, among all the species we have met, none have ever made us feel feel double quotes." The alien struggled to find words. "Connected," finished the tree being, its voice like rustling leaves. "She made us feel connected to something beyond ourselves." The water alien flowed closer. "We have communication. We have art, we have culture, but this touches something deeper, something we did not know we possessed." Katie smiled brightly. "That's what Grammys says music does. It makes people feel things together, even when they're far apart." Dr. Amy Sullivan wiped tears from her eyes as she watched her daughter unknowingly change the course of galactic history with a simple song learned from her grandmother. The golden-furred alien spoke softly. "Teach us more, little songbird. Show us what other wonders your species creates with these magical sounds." Katie clapped her hands together excitedly. "I know lots of songs. This is going to be so much fun." And in that moment, in a converted auditorium aboard a human starship, the first interstellar music lesson began. 1 week after Katie's first performance, the USS Harmony had become the most famous ship in the galaxy. News of the little human girl who could make aliens cry with her songs had spread across 12 different worlds faster than anyone thought possible. Captain Morrison sat in his office, looking at the long list of requests that kept coming in through the communication systems. Every species in the Zephyrian Confederation wanted their own private concert with Katie. Some wanted to bring their leaders, others wanted to bring their children, and a few wanted to bring their entire populations. "We have 17 more requests today," Lisa said, sitting across from his desk with a tablet full of messages. "The Cronus Empire wants to send a delegation of their warriors. The collective of Zarian says they've never experienced individual feelings before, and they want to understand what Katie did to them." Captain Morrison rubbed his tired eyes. "How is Katie handling all this attention?" "She loves it," Lisa said. With a small smile, "She thinks she's just making new friends every day. But I'm worried about her parents. Amy hasn't slept properly in days." Down in the science labs, Dr. Amy Sullivan was working with Dr. Ben Parker, the ship's xenopsychologist, trying to understand what was happening to the aliens who heard Katie sing. They had monitors and computers covering every table, all displaying brain scans and emotional readings from the different species. "Look at this," Ben said, pointing to a colorful graph on his screen. "This is a Cronus warrior's brain activity during Katie's performance. See these spikes? Those are empathy responses. The Cronus have never shown empathy before. They're a warrior culture that believes only in strength and conquest." Amy studied the readings with amazement, and this one from the collective of Zarian. "Even more interesting," Ben said, pulling up another chart. "The collective shares one mind across thousands of individuals, but when Katie sang, for the first time in their history, individual members began having private thoughts and feelings. Some of them are asking to stay separate from the hive mind." Amy felt a chill run down her spine. "Are we changing them? Are we hurting their societies?" "I don't think we're hurting them," Ben said carefully, "but we're definitely changing them. The question is whether that's good or bad." Meanwhile, in the ship's small schoolroom, Katie was having her own music lesson with some very unusual students. Three young aliens sat on the floor with her, trying to learn simple human songs. There was Zix, a small crystal being whose body was only about Katie's size. When Zix tried to sing, beautiful chiming sounds came out, like bells ringing in harmony. Next to Zix sat Fluffy, which was the name Katie had given to a young golden-furred alien with fur arms instead of six. Fluffy couldn't make sounds like humans, but when Katie sang, Fluffy's fur changed colors and patterns that seemed to match the music. The third student was the strangest of all. It was a small piece of the water alien collective, shaped like a flowing ball that floated in the air. Katie called it Splash, and when it tried to sing, it made sounds like gentle rain falling on leaves. Now we all sing together, Katie said, clapping her hands. Ready, twinkle, twinkle, little star ... The four young beings began to sing, each in their own way. Katie's clear human voice mixed with Zix's chiming, while Fluffy's fur sparkled and Splash made gentle water sounds. It didn't sound like any music that had ever existed before, but it was beautiful in a completely new way. Dr. Amy Sullivan stood in the doorway, watching her daughter teach alien children how to make music. Part of her was proud beyond words, but another part was terrified. Katie was 3 years old, and she was changing the course of galactic civilization. "Mommer!" Katie called out when she saw her mother. "Come listen, we're making new music." Amy walked into the room and sat on the floor with the children. "That sounds wonderful, sweetheart. Zix sounds like church bells," Katie explained seriously. "And Fluffy is like a rainbow that you can hear, and Splash is like when it rains." On our garden back on Earth, the alien children seemed to understand that Amy was important to Katie. Zix chimed softly in what sounded like a greeting. Fluffy's fur turned warm, golden colors. Splash flowed into a heart shape. "They like you, Mama," Katie said. "They want to learn more songs." That evening, Amy sat with her husband Rick in their small family quarters. Katie was asleep in her bed, clutching her stuffed rabbit and humming softly in her dreams. "The requests keep coming," Rick said quietly. "Every species wants to meet her. Some of them want to take her to their home worlds." "She's just a baby," Amy said, watching their daughter sleep. "She doesn't understand what's happening, she thinks. This is all just a big game. Maybe that's what makes it work," Rick said thoughtfully. "She's not trying to change anyone, she's just being herself." A soft chime came from their communication system. Amy answered it, and Captain Morrison's face appeared on the small screen. "I'm sorry to bother you so late," he said, "but we have a situation. The Cronus Empire has split into two groups. Half of them want to embrace these new emotions they're feeling, the other half thinks the emotions make them weak, and they want to ban all contact with humans." Amy felt her heart sink. "Are we causing a war?" "I don't think so," Captain Morrison said. "But we're definitely causing changes that these species aren't prepared for. The question is, what do we do about it?" Rick spoke up. "What does Earth Command say?" "They want us to continue the cultural exchange," Captain Morrison replied. "They think this could be the key to peaceful relations with 12 different civilizations. But they're leaving the decision up to us, especially Katie's parents." Amy looked at her sleeping daughter, then at her husband. "She loves singing for them, she loves making friends, but I'm scared of what might happen if we continue, and I'm scared of what might happen if we stop," Rick said. "What if cutting off contact makes things worse?" Captain Morrison nodded. "Take some time to think about it. But remember, Katie isn't just representing our ship anymore, she's representing all of humanity. Whatever we decide will affect billions of people on Earth and billions more on the alien worlds." After the captain ended the call, Amy and Rick sat in silence, listening to their daughter's soft humming. Outside their window, the alien ships waited patiently in space, filled with beings who were experiencing emotions for the first time in their species' history. Tomorrow would bring more requests, more concerts, and more decisions that no 3-year-old should ever have to make. But tonight, Katie Sullivan slept peacefully, dreaming of new friends and the songs she would teach them. 3 months had passed since Katie's first performance. and everything had changed. The little girl who once skipped happily through the ship's quarters now walked quietly, holding her mother's hand tightly. She still loved to sing, but the constant attention from aliens and humans alike was beginning to wear on her young spirit. Katie sat in the corner of the main conference room, playing with her stuffed rabbit, while the grown-ups talked in serious voices around the big table. She didn't understand most of what they were saying, but she knew they were talking about her. They always seem to be talking about her these days. The situation on Cronus Prime is getting worse, Ambassador Vexhai was saying through the communication screen. The warriors who embraced emotions are fighting with those who reject them. Some of their leaders are calling Katie's music a weapon that weakens their people. Captain Morrison looked tired and older than he had 3 months ago. What about the other worlds? The collective of Zarian has broken apart completely, Vexhai replied. For the first time in 1,000 years, they exist as individuals instead of one shared mind. Many are happy, but others are lost and confused without the connection to their hive. Dr. Amy Sullivan spoke up from her seat near Katie. Are we destroying their civilizations? Are we hurting people by sharing our music? Some see it as destruction, Vexhai admitted. Others see it as evolution, but the changes cannot be undone. Once a being has felt individual emotions, they cannot forget what that feels like. Katie looked up from her rabbit. Are my friends sad? She asked in a small voice. The room fell silent. All the adults turned to look at the little girl who had started this galaxy-wide transformation without meaning to. Some of them are confused, sweetheart, Amy said gently, kneeling beside her daughter. They're feeling new things, and they don't know what to do about it. Maybe I should stop singing, Katie said quietly. Maybe I'm making people feel bad. The words hit everyone in the room like a physical blow. Captain Morrison felt his chest tighten. This was exactly what he had been afraid of, that the pressure would eventually hurt Katie herself. Lisa spoke carefully. Katie, your singing makes many people very happy. The crystal children you taught can now make beautiful music with their families. The water beings have learned to express joy in ways they never could before, but some people don't like it, Katie said, her lower lip trembling. And Mama looks worried all the time now. Amy gathered her daughter into her arms. Oh, sweetheart, Mama isn't worried about your singing. Mama is worried about keeping you safe and happy. From Earth, they had been receiving pressure from different groups. Some wanted Katie to return home immediately and perform for world leaders. Others wanted her to visit every planet in the Confederation. A few extremist groups claimed that Katie was being used by aliens to weaken humanity. Rick Sullivan had been getting angrier each day as he read the messages from Earth. They want to use her, he said to Amy later that night after Katie had gone to bed. Politicians want to parade her around like some kind of trophy. Scientists want to study her. Everyone has forgotten that she's just a little girl. Amy nodded, watching Katie sleep. Their daughter had been having nightmares lately, dreams about being lost in space or being unable to sing anymore. She's becoming afraid of performing. Yesterday she hid when Ambassador Vexhai came to visit. Maybe we should go home, Rick said. Take Katie back to Earth, away from all this pressure. But what about the alien children she's been teaching? What about the cultural exchange program? Amy asked. If we leave now, won't that hurt the relationships we've built? Rick was quiet for a long moment. I care more about our daughter than I care about galactic politics. The next morning brought new problems. A group of Cronus warriors had sent a message demanding that all human music be banned from their space. They claimed that emotions made their people weak and that Katie's songs were a form of mind control. At the same time, the Alterans, who were known for their logical minds, sent their own message. They wanted to study Katie's brain to understand how human music could create such powerful emotional responses in other species. Captain Morrison called a meeting with Katie's parents and the senior staff. We have a choice to make, he said. Earth Command is ordering us to continue the mission. But I'm putting Katie's well-being first. If you want to take her home, I'll support that decision. Dr. Ben Parker had been studying the psychological effects on Katie for weeks. She's showing signs of stress that no 3-year-old should have to deal with, he reported. The constant performances, the pressure, the knowledge that entire civilizations are changing because of her singing, it's too much for a child. Katie herself had been getting quieter each day. She still played with her alien friends Zix, Fluffy, and Splash, but she no longer sang as freely as she once had. Sometimes she would start a song and then stop, looking around nervously to see who was listening. One evening, Katie was sitting with her parents in their quarters when she asked the question that broke their hearts, "Mama, Papa, am I a bad person?" Amy immediately pulled Katie into her lap. "Oh, sweetheart, no. You're the most wonderful little girl in the universe. Why would you think that because some of the aliens are fighting because of my songs?" Katie said, tears starting to fall. "And some people on Earth are angry, and everyone looks worried when they talk about me." Rick knelt beside his wife and daughter. "Katie, you haven't done anything wrong. You shared something beautiful with new friends. It's not your fault that some people don't know how to handle new feelings, but maybe I should stop," Katie whispered. "Maybe everyone would be happier if I didn't sing anymore." That night, Amy and Rick made their decision. They called Captain Morrison to their quarters and told him they wanted to return to Earth. "The pressure is destroying her," Amy said. "She's 3 years old, and she's taking responsibility for entire civilizations. That's not fair to her." Captain Morrison nodded sadly. "I agree, but what do we tell the Confederation? What do we tell the alien children who look forward to their music lessons with Katie?" "We tell them the truth," Rick said firmly. "We tell them that we need to protect our daughter, just like they would protect their own children." The decision was made. The USS Harmony would return to Earth, taking Katie away from the galactic stage she had never asked to be on. But as they prepared for the journey home, none of them knew that the biggest test was still coming. In space. Around them, the alien ships waited, unaware that their little songbird was about to fly away. 6 months later, the USS Harmony returned to alien space, but this time everything was different. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the familiar crystal ships appear on his screens, but now he felt confident instead of nervous. In the main auditorium, a wonderful sound filled the air. It wasn't just one voice singing anymore, but many voices blending together in harmony. Katie Sullivan, now 4 years old, stood in the center of a group that included her grandmother Rose Henderson, her grandfather Carl Henderson, and her new friend Sophie Henderson, who was 7 years old. Katie still loved to sing, but now she wasn't carrying the weight of the galaxy on her small shoulders. She was part of something bigger, something that shared the joy and the responsibility. "Are you ready for our friends to come aboard?" asked Grandma Rose, smoothing down Katie's hair. Rose had traveled from Earth specifically to help with the new cultural exchange program. She was a retired music teacher who had spent her whole life helping children learn to sing. "I'm ready, Grandma," Katie said, holding Sophie's hand. "And I won't be scared this time because we're all together." During the 6 months on Earth, Katie had been very sad at first. She missed her alien friends and worried about them constantly. But slowly, with help from child psychologists and her loving family, she had learned that she could still help without carrying all the responsibility alone. The idea for the Henderson family band had come from Katie herself. "Why can't Grandma Rose come to space?" she had asked one day. "She taught me all my best songs. And she could help teach the alien children too." Earth Command had agreed to send a small group of volunteer musicians and teachers to help create a proper cultural exchange program. Rose Henderson had volunteered immediately, bringing her son Carl, who played guitar, and her granddaughter Sophie, who had a beautiful singing voice for a 7-year-old. Now the auditorium doors opened, and Ambassador Vexhai entered with the familiar group of alien delegates. But Katie noticed something wonderful. They weren't walking stiffly like before. Some of them were making musical sounds as they moved, humming or chiming softly to themselves. Katie came a familiar chiming voice. Zix, the small crystal being, ran toward the stage, his body sparkling with happy colors. Behind him came Fluffy, whose golden fur was glowing warm and bright, and Splash, who was bouncing through the air in an excited pattern. "My friends," Katie called out, jumping down from the stage to hug her alien classmates. "I missed you so much." "We missed you too," Zix chimed. "We kept practicing the songs you taught us. Want to hear?" The three alien children began to sing "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" in their own special way. Zix's crystal body made bell-like sounds, Fluffy's fur changed colors in rhythm with the melody, and Splash created gentle water sounds that sounded like rain on leaves. Grandma Rose wiped tears from her eyes. "Oh my," she whispered to Katie, "that's the most beautiful version of that song I've ever heard." Ambassador Vexhai approached the stage area. "Katie Sullivan, you have returned. Many of our people have been hoping for this day." "I'm back," Katie said happily, "but now I have helpers. This is my Grandma Rose and my Grandpa Carl and my friend Sophie. We're going to teach music together, and this is very good," said the tree-like alien, whose silver leaves were glowing softly. "Our children have been asking when they could learn more songs. Some of our adults want to learn too." Sophie stepped forward shyly. "Katie taught me some of the songs she learned from her alien friends. Would you like to hear for the next hour?" The auditorium filled with the most amazing concert anyone had ever heard. Katie and Sophie sang traditional human songs while Zix, Fluffy, and Splash added their own musical voices. Grandpa Carl played guitar, creating rhythms that the aliens had never heard before. Grandma Rose taught everyone simple harmony parts that they could sing together, but the real magic happened when they all sang together, humans and aliens, young and old, creating something completely new. The crystal beings added chimes, the golden-furred aliens created color patterns that danced in the air, the water beings made sounds like flowing streams, and the tree-like aliens rustled their leaves in rhythm. Dr. Amy Sullivan sat in the audience with her husband Rick, watching their daughter laugh and sing without any of the worrying that had been in her eyes 6 months ago. Katie was still special, still the little girl who had introduced music to 12 alien civilizations, but now she was just one part of a bigger, happier picture. "Look at her," Amy whispered to Rick. "She's herself again, and she's still changing." "The galaxy," Rick replied with a smile, "just not all by herself." After the concert, Ambassador Vexhai made an announcement that surprised everyone. The Confederation Council has decided to create permanent cultural exchange stations throughout our space. We want humans and aliens to live together, to learn from each other, to create new forms of art and music. Captain Morrison felt a weight lift from his shoulders. "And Katie?" "Katie will always be honored as the first teacher," Vexhai said, "but she should be a child first, a teacher second." "We understand this now." The Cronus warriors had found a solution to their conflict too. Those who wanted to embrace emotions had formed new communities where music and feelings were celebrated. Those who preferred their traditional ways continued, as they always had, but they no longer fought with their more emotional brothers and sisters. The collective of Zarian had also found balance. Some chose to remain individuals, while others rejoined the hive mind. But now they could move between the two states as they wished. As the weeks passed, the USS Harmony became a traveling school. Katie taught the youngest alien children simple songs while Sophie helped the older ones learn more complex melodies. Grandma Rose worked with alien adults who wanted to understand human music theory, and Grandpa Carl formed the first interspecies band. Katie still sang Moon River sometimes, the song that had started everything. But now when she sang it, she wasn't alone on a stage with the weight of the galaxy watching her. She was surrounded by friends, human and alien, all singing together under the stars. One evening, as Katie was getting ready for bed, she looked out the window at all the alien ships traveling with them through space. Each ship now had its own little concert halls where beings from different worlds were learning to make music together. "Mama," Katie said sleepily, "I think the aliens are happy now." "I think so too, sweetheart," Amy replied, tucking her daughter into bed. "And most importantly, you're happy too." Katie smiled and closed her eyes, humming softly as she drifted off to sleep. Tomorrow, there would be more music, more friends, and more songs to share across the galaxy. But tonight, she was just a 4-year-old girl who had helped the universe learn to sing together.